The transfer portal is right around the corner, and one of the biggest questions the Utah Utes need to figure out is, can this team keep Devon Dampier and Byrd Ficklin together for the 2026 season?
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. It's the first time listening to our show. Make sure you like and subscribe. Huge shout out to our everydayers, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. My name is J.T. Wister, still excited to be joined by ESPN 700's Porter Larson to talk about all things Utah offense, with a lot of turnover coming with this roster potentially as we are about to enter the portal season. Can Utah keep Jason Beck, WayShawn Parker? What's the offensive line look like next year? But first, Porter, all the rage in college football is, of course, quarterbacks. Let's start with the biggest question I think that Utah will have to figure out is, hey, can we keep Byrd Ficklin and Devon Dampier together? And the truth is, I think they will be able to. I think Utah has shown they can be competitive with NIL offers. I also don't think Devon especially, I'll say, Byrd surpassed expectations, right? I don't think Devon had the type of season that a Miami, a Texas Tech, some of those, like, oh my gosh, their NIL is like, I don't know if we can get there. I don't know if they had those type of seasons where they price themselves out of Utah's range. And Byrd's a really fun player. I feel like he's in the perfect system. And let's also just, like, I'm not saying these guys would leave and even want to leave. I'm just saying these are conversations that obviously happen in the portal era. I feel confident as we stand here today on both these guys being Utah Utes next season. What say you?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think in a lot of the regards you just mentioned, which are that, it's not like one of these guys had a Heisman run and is now going to get, the attention of the biggest names in college football. While they will get attention, they will get offers, they will get some teams that come calling. What also helps is they have a good relationship, right? It's not like a rivalry where these two guys are competing for a job. It's more of a dynamic at the QB position where I think they're okay with both of them for the time being. I don't know if that is the case through an entire football season rather than just how we saw it kind of the second half of this year. But it'll be interesting to see, man. I do think that part of the good part here for Utah is a lot of the attention is not necessarily going to be on them. That is kind of already started and waned a little bit with Kalani Sitake staying in Provo. There's a lot of ripple effects to the coaching carousel, and we've already seen a little bit of it.
We have to. And, one of the ripple effects last year was Devon Dampier coming over to Salt Lake City. And Devon was really good this year. I know that, coming into the year, I even said on my show, I actually thought he was going to have the type of year that he'd be a top 10 Heisman finisher. He obviously didn't have that. That's what we were just talking about, basically. But he was still really good for this Utah team. And it's also easy to forget. We'll talk about it more in the Jason Beck segment about what this offense was from last year to this year. But the upgrade at quarterback was obviously a big part of the reason that Utah was as good as they were this year. Dampier over 20,000 yards, over 2,000 yards passing, 22 touchdowns. How about cutting those interceptions down? Just 5 there, 687 yards. He was slightly limited, battling injuries throughout the season, but make no mistake, he was an incredibly effective quarterback for Utah. He's a huge part of the reason the offense turned around. I think going into next year, I'd love to do a few different things quarterback run-wise where we limit the hits that he takes, because I think that would make him even more effective, but he was really good. He still needs to continue to grow as a passer, but he proved he belonged at the P4 level, and I'm excited to see another year of him. Year 3, it would be in Jason Beck's offense. Offensive line won't be the same next year, but I'm excited about the future of Devon Dampier, especially what I'm hoping is at the Utah Utes.
Yeah, and as you kind of mentioned there, both of these guys have development still to be had, right? Mm-hmm. And if Jason Beck is staying put, that leads you to believe that they probably want to keep developing under him. And, I see good reason for Utah to believe they can retain them. That being said, it's the NIL age. So you do have to come with those dollar signs prepared.
You absolutely do. Let's talk about Byrd Ficklin a little bit now. What a year it was for Byrd. I mean, I remember when there was first noise about the 3-star quarterback, and I'm like, okay, it's a fun story, but we went through the whole freshman quarterback thing last year. We're not actually going to see Byrd come in and make plays. And Oh my gosh, did he make plays? His ability to run the football as a true freshman at the quarterback spot is it's incredible. His natural ability to make guys miss. I mean, 503 rushing yards. Like, he had more rushing yards than Aquari Rogers, and he had like 40 less carries. Like, it's just crazy what he was able to do. I'm not trying to diss Aquari. I'm just saying, like, the fact that Byrd in that limited of a offense, or that limited of a role, especially for the first half of the year, was able to rush for that amount too and look as good as he did in the Colorado game. I'm so fired up about his future. We mentioned needing to grow. I just don't think he's a great passer. So that's where I don't see how some team would just come in with this massive NIL offer at a P4 level and be like, that's our quarterback right now, to try and get Byrd and be like, oh, you could come and start here. He's going to play a lot next season still, even if it is still Dampier's offense. I love the flashes that Byrd showed, and he's another guy. I feel like his ceiling is incredibly high too, Porter.
Yeah, his ceiling is there. His explosiveness is apparent, right? His impact on the football field is going to be, it's going to be there, whether he's throwing the ball, whether he's in the backfield, regardless of how Utah manages that. So, hey, if you run it back, both these guys are on your roster next year, and Devon Dampier's healthy, and you don't really need that, that extra help at quarterback, hey, hand him the ball off. Like, you'll find a role for a Byrd Ficklin. Obviously, Utah is not opposed to throwing a guy in a wildcat type position, or in a position where he's not asked to throw the ball a bunch. That's something that we very well could see. And as we've seen throughout a large part of this year, it doesn't have to be a quarterback controversy. It can just be a quarterback conversation.
It absolutely could be. One other guy, let's just rope into this just for the sake of discussion, I just thought about, because he's not a full-on quarterback anymore. Well, he's not a quarterback anymore. Nate Johnson. I would love to see Nate stay with this Utah team. Yes. You just never know in the portal era. He went to Vanderbilt before and then came back to Utah, but I felt like they started to find a rhythm with him in the second half of the year. We thought he was going to do more of what the Smith Snowdens and Daniel Brays kind of took over and did, but I thought we got a good taste of him. I think he could stay in this offense and have a really good second year as he continues to acclimate to the wide receiver position. Porter, I'd love to see Nate back.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that you will see Nate. He took a little bit of a sabbatical, if you will, right? A little field trip, and kind of saw that the grass is sometimes greener where you used to be, right? And I think that Nate has, at least conversations I've had with him, seems like he's standing where his feet are and likes it here. I don't foresee him necessarily wanting to do another transfer type situation. That being said, who knows what happens with rosters over the course of an offseason, who comes in, who leaves. Like I said, man, if a certain coach takes a certain job and a certain coordinator follows him, and a certain quarterback follows him, then a whole litany of other things could happen. Utah kind of avoided any situation like that with the BYU stuff wrapping up. But no, I do think that Nate will probably be a Ute in 2026.
Yeah, and that we love that, and we hope all these guys are, as we said, a Byrd, a Devon, and Nate Johnson as well too. But there's another guy we haven't talked about that the Utah Utes need to keep, and not just for next year, not just for a couple of years, honestly, as long as he wants to stay with the success he had this year. Who are we talking about? It's actually not even a player, and we're going to tell you in one moment. This episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, and every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines you can adjust to instantly. Player prop updates as the games heat up. You can bet your next touchdown score, drive results, totals, and more. There's so much action on FanDuel, whether it's the NFL, whether it's the NBA, college football still rolling on, college basketball, FanDuel has you covered. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you with FanDuel. Porter Larson of ESPN 700 back here with me, and we talked about two guys that Utah has to keep, in my opinion, Byrd Ficklin, Devon Dampier. I'm incredibly excited about the future. One of the biggest reasons I'm excited about their future, how good they looked in Jason Beck's offense. I don't know what we had expectations for what we wanted Jason Beck's offense to be. I mean, the fact that a Utah offense, and then this quickly, by the way, like it's easy to forget how bad the offense was last year. 40th in 40 points per game, which is 6th in the country, the best P4 rush offense, 66 touchdowns. Do you know what the improvement, Porter, was rushing touchdowns this year from last year?
Ooh, I'm trying to think off the top of my head what the number was last year, but
It's hard to fathom how bad it was.
They doubled it or more, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Oh, they doubled. It was 37 this year, 7 last year.
Wow.
That's what elite for this offense made. Jason Beck did a great job. Yes, there's still work to be done in the pass game, right? But not all that's on Beck. That's on the players as well to grow and get better there. This is a top 10 offense. Like, you're nitpicking if it's anything, if you're saying anything negative about it. I love what Jason Beck brought to the up on the hill, and he needs to be back with this team. And thankfully, like you kind of mentioned, there was some coaching movement, or especially early. Maybe we're a little scared about losing him. I'm starting to feel better about him staying with Utah, which is, and not that he was ever looking to go, as you just said, this is college football. Things can turn quickly. I love what Beck did, and I can't wait to see him get to continue to build on what was a incredible first year.
Yeah, and the only reason I really mentioned Jason when the coaching conversation comes up is because, well, it's his alma mater that's dealing with this. He's the guy who played quarterback at BYU. So when those conversations happen, you just, an antenna goes up, because that that domino had Kalani Sitake taking that job to Penn State, which, if we want to get into it, that was a power play. I don't think he was leaving to Penn State.
You don't think so?
Well, listen, I think that it probably got closer than many thought because of how big the numbers Penn State can give you are, and how different that could have made the lives of people around Kalani Sitake. I don't think he wanted to ever necessarily make that move, but it became big enough that it was a possibility. I'll say that. That being said, I talked about this on air before the news became official. Kalani had a front row seat to, in 2010, Kyle Whittingham courting, and really Tennessee courting Kyle Whittingham. That was an SEC behemoth who, and I can tell you, I know this hasn't been really reported out, Kyle was being offered more than $4 million in total by Tennessee. That wasn't like maybe that was on the table. They were ready to give him that money. And at the time, JT, that would have matched Urban Meyer, and it would have trailed only Bob Stoops and Nick Saban, I believe. So Kyle used that to go back to Chris Hill, to go back to the folks at the University of Utah and say, hey, we're about to jump into the Pac-12. I'm going to need, not only for me, but for my staff, for my players, our facilities, a little bit more promises. And he got it. And he got it because of the pressure from a team in the SEC. And Kalani kind of played that same card, I think, with the folks at Penn State. Not saying he was operating out of bad faith. That's just the game we play. Your agents play those cards. They go through your options in your career, and you better your own position. And I believe Kalani did that. And in doing so, it stops any sort of domino effect that would have left openings at BYU and potentially elsewhere. That's huge. The only reason I bring it up.
Yeah, no, it's fact. And it's one of the things that's actually unfortunate about this whole Penn State kerfuffle, which is funny because you're wearing a Virginia Tech hat right now, because this is all happening because of the whole James Franklin. Now he's at Virginia Tech. And because of this too, we've heard their NIL is going to increase as well, BYU. So that'll be interesting to see for Utah, how they continue to try and combat that. If the Cougars are continuing to invest in the NIL and everything that just goes on in college football when it comes to trying to build a roster. That's where Utah will have to step up. One guy they're going to definitely have to step up in order to keep, I think, is WayShawn Parker. WayShawn Parker is a guy who loves Utah. I think wants to be at Utah, but as we were just talking about, like, these things can happen in the transfer portal where you will see a guy enter the portal, even though he had a really good season, he's happy where he's at. Like, to me, there's going to be a lot of people that want WayShawn Parker on their team. He was second in college football in yards per carry this past season. He broke out among backs who had a certain number of carries, obviously, but he was incredible down the stretch. I loved what he provided. I think if he was used a little more early on, he easily goes over 1,000 yards on the season too, Porter, and he was only a sophomore. Like, I think he's going to have an outstanding junior year, and that's another guy to me that Utah has to do everything they can to keep, because I think he's a pretty transcendent talent.
And WayShawn's exciting because he's kind of just getting it, right? He's kind of just scraping the surface of, I think, the kind of running back he can be. He came into this season, Kyle, gave him a little grief because he wasn't quite up to shape. He then fumbled the ball a little bit to start the year. So There was a reason his carries weren't as numerous as they were later in the year. But, man, you really saw him come on later in the year, and you saw the type of running back he can be. Now, the next step, JT, is can he take a step? Because we saw the talent he is on the field, but I want to take a step back. If you remember Zach Moss, he had a freshman year, a sophomore year that was really good. Both years he, carried the ball a lot, was really productive. But after his sophomore year, Zach realized, NFL scouts realized, people in Salt Lake City realized, oh, this guy isn't just like, exciting Pac-12 weapon. No, this is the real deal, right? And Zach took a step that offseason with his body, with his approach to the game, with his pregame routine. Like everything just became more intentful, more professional, if you will. Like he took that step. I want to see that from WayShawn. He's having a lot of fun. He's a really good back. He's explosive. Like take that next step though, because right now you're a really good college football player. If you can recognize your ceiling, WayShawn could be playing on Sundays. Not there yet, though. He has to take that step, and I'm talking physically, and I'm talking a little bit mentally, and with some of that maturation stuff. But he's well on his way, man. He's only a sophomore, so I'm not coming down on him saying these things. I'm just saying it's the natural progression of a college football running back, and if Utah can keep a hold of him, I think he could be one of the next in line. I don't know that he's a mid-rounder like a Zach Moss or a Devontae Booker, but I think he could be a late-round draft pick. I think he's that good.
I think he is too. I think he could absolutely be an NFL guy. And like you said, like he is only sophomore. So like it's not his time yet. I don't think either of us, like we're just talking about right now, like he's not there yet, but he could be. And that's what's really exciting. Utah ground game in a great place. Obviously passing game, still trying to catch up there. Utah, I talked about on my show earlier this week. They obviously need to go out and find a true tight end. We like what JJ Buchanan does, but he's almost a receiver at this point now. So talk about the receiver position for Utah. Look, Ryan Davis will move on as he graduates. I like what Creed Whittemore did. So I'm excited for more of him next season. I think Larry Simmons came on strong at the end. Obviously, the Tobias Merriweather experiment didn't work out this season. I still think there's a chance he could be something for this team moving forward, but this feels like a position Utah needs to add some in the portal. They will get Darren Zipper back from the injury that he missed. Smith Snowden told me at Big 12 Media Days he thought Zipper was going to have a big year, so that was a loss for this Utah passing offense. I think we both expect Utah to add some wide receivers there, but what do you think of the talent that as of right now should be returning to that room?
Well, you saw in the last few weeks of the year that you probably want to bring Larry Simmons back.
Yes.
That's a kid who it took a minute for him to kind of learn the offense and to settle in, but he showed his value late in the year. Really good ball skills, really good on the sideline, really good route runner. So you'd like to see him back. You mentioned Creed Whittemore. Tobias Merriweather is a guy who I just kept waiting for him to break out. The guy is, he's able to get open. He's a big body, but dude, if you're a receiver, you got one job outside of blocking, and that's catching the damn ball, right? So he's got some work to do in that regard. And we'll see if he can come back next year. But, Utah's got some guys they like in that room. Rayshawn Glover, one of them. Monica Carvalho, who, of course, we saw in the punt return as a special teams weapon who you might see used in those roles a little bit more. But they're going to have to hit the portal. You mentioned JJ Buchanan. He's listed as a tight end, but I told you before kickoff this year, you might not see him with his hand in the ground for a single snap. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, you did. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, if you go back to our preseason, I told you JJ probably won't have his hand in the dirt all year. I don't know that he did.
I don't think so. No.
So that's one of your receivers if you want to organize it that way. Outside of that, though, Utah's going to have to hit the portal. There's no doubt there.
But first, this episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at Omaha Steaks. The holidays always feel a little easier when you already know the perfect gift, and Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to a family and friend, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to your door. And this week, it's the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals are massive. The quality is exactly what you hope for when you order an Omaha steak. Incredibly tender, rich flavor, and meals that make hosting or weeknight cooking just easier. And the variety is underrated. You know about the great steaks, but how about burgers, comfort meals, sides, desserts? It's one of the gifts that truly fits anyone. Honestly, it's the kind of gift that brings people together, and you don't need to guess anyone's size. So save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and extra 20% off select favorites during the cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE, all caps, no spaces, COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, the promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See the site for details to get your Omaha steak today. They absolutely will. And like, even for the traditional tight ends, like everyone else is like a freshman or a sophomore. Like, so it's like, okay, that's a big, they did a great job developing a Dallin Bentley, and they'll need to find an impact guy there for sure. One area this Utah has to find impact guys, offensive line. I mean, oh my gosh, they're outstanding. One of the best in the country. They're going to lose all 5 of them, which is just crazy to think that's probably what's going to happen. I like some of the guys they have in-house. Like Ike Garcia is a guy who should be playing next year, right? I think he's had a couple of years now, 4-star out of Corner Canyon. This will be his moment to step in and step up too. There's some of the extra offensive linemen this team has brought in that have been fun to watch on the season. Like, it's just that 6 offensive linemen. I'm excited to see what they can bring, like a Keith Olson. There's the USC transfer from last year too. I'm not going to throw Obot into the, maybe he gets on the field. I just think it's tough to be like, oh, that'll be Spencer Fano 2.0. Spencer Fano is like the best offensive lineman in the country. Like, so when we look back to like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He played as a freshman. Like, it takes a special type of talent to play that early at that position. I just don't want to throw that on Obot this early. What do you make of the future of the O block?
Yeah, man. As you mentioned, when you replace that kind of talent, that kind of production up front, it's always going to be a little bit of an adjustment. The first few weeks of 2026, let's be clear, are going to be a feel-out process for Utah's offensive line. Luckily, Jim Harding has a track record of being able to do that in season, right? Did it with these guys and did it last year. So it's something that I have confidence in Utah being able to do. Jim and Isaac Asiata are as good as anyone, I think, at doing that. But you still got to replace the bodies. You got Moei still there, who's taken a lot of snaps, although not in as many this year, frankly, as he did last year.
Yeah.
Lomu, he's got eligibility left. Why not?
Do you think
why not try? No, but
yeah.
No, but listen, you got to throw it out there. At least a guy who could stay around for a few years. And then, as you mentioned, we don't necessarily want to talk about the incoming freshmen, although there is a 4 borderline 5-star kid and some others that they're really excited about. But yeah, it's Isaiah Garcia, it's Alex Harrison, it's Keith Olson. Those are probably 3 names that you're going to see involved in the rotation in some form or fashion. But yeah, I'm curious who Jim Harding has as his 5-man. They'll probably look at FCS level and G5 and go from there to try to get some experience, which they've done in years past.
Yeah, I can't remember the time they brought in a transfer in like that first year along the offensive line. That first year he started, it might take a year or two, then he becomes a guy. So it'll be interesting to see this year. In 30 seconds, Porter, because we got to get you out of here. What is Isaac Asiata, your former Utah pregame show member that you guys would record together? What has he brought to the O Block as a coach?
Dude, Isaac's been awesome. As you mentioned, my former co-host, a good friend of mine, he's taught me so much about football, so I understand. Like, during a game day, I would get him to break down what I'm looking at in front of me, right? Yeah. And he's just so good at it. So it showed me that he's going to be able to be a good teacher. Being a good coach is one thing, where you can motivate your guys, where you can, you can get them to lifts, you can get them in and out of class, you can do the college football thing. But being a teacher on the X's and O's, on the footwork, on the little intricacies of being an offensive lineman, that, let me be clear, it looks like you're just a big mauler out there bruising back and forth. Dude, it's so intricate and so complicated, more so than most positions. And he's just so good at getting down into that and teaching these guys in a way, that it feels like it's authentic, because it is. It's a kid who grew up here, went to school here, played for this coaching staff, and is all in that regard. So he brings, number one, a attitude where it's Utes or bust, but he also brings in NFL experience and now 20, 30 years of playing offensive line and coaching offensive line at an elite level.
He does an outstanding job. So do you, sir. Make sure you guys give him a follow at Lars ESPN at Lars_ESPN. Check him out every day on ESPN 700. Porter, thanks for making the time.
Thank you, JT.
Always great having Porter Larson on. And one thing I love he's talk about is what Isaac Asiata brought to this team, because I'm sure we were all sitting there listening back to the pregame show a couple years ago, being like, gosh, he does a great job breaking down football. Like, he'd probably be a really good coach. And he's been. And he's done an outstanding job with the O Block. And obviously him and Jim Harding deserve all the credit in the world. And I'm so curious to see what that group looks like. Spring ball is going to be massive for them. Like, you want to talk about a group that spring ball was not important for last year? The Utah offensive line. Like, they played a ton of snaps the year before. Like, just keep that group healthy and they'll be ready to rock and roll come the season. The Utah offensive line is going to need a lot of reps in this spring, and they've gotten their practice reps and just more reps in the spring, but the ones always get more reps than the twos. And that's what Utah needs to do. Not just get reps of that group together too and build the chemistry. They got to figure out who that group combination is going to be, obviously. And that'll be massive to who's helping this Utah offense to new heights with Jason Beck. It's just crazy how good this offense was with Jason Beck, right? I mean, they had 305 total first downs this year. If we look back to last year, they had 199, literally 100 more first downs. It's just wild what this team was able to do. We mentioned the rushing touchdowns. I mean, even total touchdowns, right? 31 last year, 66 this year. And the other thing is, a lot of the touchdowns last year, you look at their highest scoring games, what were they? Against the worst teams on their schedule. And this year, yeah, Utah pulverized some of the not great teams on their schedule, but even against some of the, like, okay, this is an okay team, like a decent team, like Cincinnati at the time, we thought, Arizona State, those aren't bad football teams. Are they top 25 teams? Pretty clearly not, we can say, as we stand here today. But those are teams that Utah threw up a ton of points against. And the offensive line, Jim Harding deserves a ton of credit for that. Jason Beck deserves a ton of credit for that, for the offense he crafted. I love this Utah offense. I want to keep as much as they can, kind of putting a bow on everything we talked about. It's really go get a number one tight end, which you should be able to get in a very tight end friendly offense, like some of the top G5 tight ends and other tight ends, even P4 ones who maybe were a backup, should find it very alluring coming to Utah and have a chance to fill the Dallin Bentley role, who had over 500 yards receiving this season. Outside of that, you got to continue to obviously chip away at the portal wide receiver spot. Utah will lose their complimentary back, Naquai Rogers. So is Daniel Bray ready? Devin Green, some of the Bray freshman, Green, a transfer from UNLV. We didn't see a lot this year. Is that another area they go? And offensive line for sure. And outside of that, it's retention for this group. It starts with Beck, Dampier, and Ficklin. I think Utah will be able to retain all those individuals, but college football is crazy. So we'll be watching to see and find out, and you guys can continue to watch Locked On Utes to find out what's going to happen next. For your second listen of the day, make sure you guys go and check out Locked On Big 12. Drake Toll has everything covered for you. We'll have the squad show dropping later today, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone, and as always, go Utes.